I never thought that a simple chat on an ordinary evening could change our lives in such an unexpected way. Jake and I had been married for 5 years, and while our relationship was strong, we both felt that something was missing. We had spent many nights talking about ways to bring back the excitement in our lives, but it was always just talk, nothing more, until one night when everything shifted. It was a regular evening. Jake and I were eating dinner when he brought up the topic we had discussed before about trying something new. But this time his voice was different. It wasn't casual. It was serious, as if he had been thinking about it for a while. "What if we actually did it?" he asked, his eyes full of excitement. "Something to bring back the spark," he added. His words made my heart race. I looked into his eyes, looking for any signs of doubt, but there was none. He was sure. The idea felt both thrilling and a bit scary. "What exactly are you suggesting?" I asked him directly, trying to keep my voice steady. "What are you suggesting, Jake?" His answer left me speechless. "I think it would be fun to meet someone, a stranger, just to break the routine. It doesn't have to be serious. Just an experience we share together." He made it clear that it wasn't about replacing what we had. "It's about rediscovering ourselves in a way we never have before," he explained. Jake saw my hesitation and calmly said, "Look, if you're not comfortable with it, I'll never bring it up again. But I think it could be something meaningful, something we experience together." As he spoke, I felt a mix of curiosity and excitement, something I hadn't felt in a long time. In the days that followed, we talked about his idea constantly. Jake was patient and never pushed me. He always made sure I felt like I was in control. It didn't take long before I found myself seriously considering his proposal. He promised that everything would be safe, with clear boundaries to protect our relationship. Finally, I agreed, but only on one condition. We would only go through with it if we found someone who was respectful and understood our limits. Jake nodded, saying he would handle everything carefully. He found someone who seemed to meet our criteria. A man named Mark. Mark was friendly, respectful, and understood the importance of trust in a situation like this. The day we met Mark finally arrived. We decided to meet him at a quiet, neutral location, a hotel far away from our usual surroundings. It was a place where we could focus on the experience without distractions. As I prepared, I couldn't help but feel nervous excitement. Would this be everything we imagined? Or would it leave us second-guessing ourselves? When Mark walked into the room, I instantly felt at ease. He was kind, respectful, and made both Jake and me feel comfortable right away. We spent the evening talking over drinks, and soon we realized that Mark shared our desire for adventure, for stepping outside of the ordinary. The conversation flowed easily. We talked about our lives, our dreams, and our past, bonding in a way that felt both surreal and refreshing. It felt like we were in a different world, a world where our usual routines and expectations didn't matter. I felt free, like a part of me that had been dormant was coming back to life. As the evening went on, Jake and I exchanged glances, silently checking in with each other. There was no discomfort, only a shared excitement, an excitement that we were experiencing something new together. At one point, Mark shared a story from his life. He talked about a transformative experience that had taught him the power of trust and vulnerability. His words struck a chord with both of us. I realized that this wasn't just about stepping outside our comfort zones. It was about discovering parts of ourselves and each other that we hadn't seen before. Jake held my hand, his grip steady and reassuring, as if telling me he was there with me every step of the way. In that moment, I felt both safe and exhilarated. This experience was teaching me more about trust, a kind of trust that went beyond words. As the night continued, Mark encouraged us to reflect on our relationship. He asked questions that made us think about how we communicated, supported, and cared for one another. His questions made us realize things we had been taking for granted. It was eye-opening to understand how much we truly valued each other and how deeply connected we were. It was at this point that I finally understood why Jake had suggested this experience. It wasn't about looking for something outside of our marriage. It was about reconnecting within it, rediscovering the bond that had brought us together. As we wrapped up the evening and said goodbye to Mark, I felt a mix of emotions. Jake held me close as we drove home, both of us quiet, each of us processing the experience. The night had been everything we hoped for, transformative, enlightening, and full of new insights. In the days and weeks that followed, Jake and I couldn't stop talking about everything we had learned. We discussed the depth of our trust, our fears, and our hopes for the future. It became clear that this experience had brought us closer in ways we didn't expect. I felt a new sense of freedom in our relationship, like we could face anything together. Jake was more confident, and I felt more secure in my understanding of our bond. We had shared something rare and special, and it had only made us stronger. It felt like we had unlocked a new chapter in our lives, one where trust and adventure could coexist. Looking back, I realized that our relationship had always been about trust, love, and openness. This experience deepened that trust and reminded us of the importance of shared adventures. We didn't need anything more than each other, but this journey showed us that our bond could handle anything. As we moved forward, I held on to the lessons we learned that night. It reminded me that sometimes stepping out of your comfort zone is the best way to rediscover the beauty of what you already have. The days following our experience with Mark felt like a new chapter in our lives had begun. Jake and I couldn't stop revisiting the details of that night, what it meant to us, how it made us feel, and the deeper connections it brought to light. It wasn't just about the experience itself, but about the revelations it triggered within us. For the first time in years, our conversations were not just about everyday routines or minor disagreements, but about our hopes, dreams, and the things we valued most in each other. We found ourselves appreciating the small gestures, the moments of quiet understanding, and the unwavering support that had always been present but often went unnoticed. Our relationship felt lighter, more open, and alive with a sense of possibility. Jake became more attentive in ways I hadn't realized I had missed. Spontaneous hugs, meaningful compliments, and moments where he simply listened without distraction. I, in turn, felt inspired to do the same, reciprocating with small acts of kindness and vulnerability that deepened our bond. One afternoon, while walking through the park, Jake turned to me and said, "I don't think I've ever loved you as much as I do right now." His words stopped me in my tracks. It wasn't just what he said, but the way he said it, with absolute sincerity and a kind of awe, as if he, too, was discovering something new about us. That evening, we decided to write down our thoughts and feelings about the experience, what we learned and what it meant for our future. It became a shared journal, a private record of our journey together. The entries weren't just about Mark or the night we met him, but about the lessons we took away. The importance of trust, the value of communication, and the beauty of taking risks together. Over time, we found ourselves incorporating these lessons into our daily lives. We became more intentional about setting aside time for each other, whether it was a date night, a weekend getaway, or simply an hour of uninterrupted conversation. We started trying new things together, not just to break routines but to create shared memories that we could look back on with joy. The experience also helped us redefine our understanding of boundaries and mutual respect. We became more attuned to each other's needs and feelings, ensuring that our actions always reflected our shared values. It wasn't about avoiding conflict or discomfort, but about approaching them with empathy and a willingness to grow together. Looking back now, I realize that the night with Mark was a catalyst, not a conclusion. It wasn't about seeking something external to fill a void, but about uncovering the depth of what we already had. It reminded us that a relationship isn't a static thing. It's a living, evolving bond that thrives on trust, honesty, and a shared sense of adventure. As Jake and I continue to navigate our journey together, I hold on to the lessons we've learned. I know there will be challenges ahead, moments of doubt, and times when we'll need to recalibrate. But I also know that we have the tools, the trust, and the love to face them together. In the end, our story isn't about one extraordinary night. It's about the countless moments before and after that night, the moments where we chose each other again and again, and discovered that the greatest adventure of all is the one we're living together.